Hello and welcome back to the Road to Good Cooking. I have been curious about all the recipes made with pork belly. So this past weekend I made my first pork belly and I must say it was sinfully delicious. Oh my word, it's hard to believe rendered pork fat can taste so dang good. This time I slow roasted my pork belly in the oven. The next time I'm going to cook it low and slow in the smoker, then finish it off on the grill to crisp up the outside skin. Pork belly is rich, full of delicious fat, and when you stuff it with spicy maple pork sausage, it is so decadent. This is one of those recipes you shouldn't cook all the time unless you have 911 emergency service on your speed dial. This recipe is not heart friendly, so think of it as your annual pork treat. Let me show you how I made my spicy maple sausage stuffed pork belly. I will post a recipe at the end of this video, so sit back and enjoy. Now let's get started. Today I am making my version of porchetta. Traditionally, porchetta is a savory, fatty, moist, boneless pork roast made with garlic, rosemary, fennel, salt, ground black pepper, and a lean pork loin. The pork belly skin is usually left on. Then it's rolled up tightly, tied with butcher's twine, and slow roasted. The next time I will make a traditional porchetta, but this time I'm making my porchetta with a different twist. First, instead of using Italian seasoning, I will be seasoning my pork belly with the same rub I use on my ribs. Second, I'm going to grind up the pork loin and make a savory sausage to stuff inside the pork belly. This was an experiment that turned out really tasty. Now let's get started making my sausage stuffed pork belly. Here's the ingredients I'll be using for my brine. I have 4 cups of apple cider juice. I'm going to use 4 to 5 tablespoons of my dry rub, 4 cloves of fresh garlic, a red onion. You can use any type of onion that you have on hand. I just happen to have a red onion. There's my my pork loin and my pork belly. Now I'm going to mix all these ingredients together, put my meat in a plastic Ziploc bag, and pour the brine over it and store it in the fridge overnight for maximum flavor. I'm scoring the skin side of my pork belly, and I will do the same on the meat side. Scoring the pork belly will help the dry rub really season the meat. In this bag I have my sliced red onions, my smashed garlic. I'm going to add the apple cider juice to this bag, and I'm going to be placing my pork loin and my pork belly in this mixture, and I'm going to marinate them overnight for maximum flavor. This is the next day. Now my pork belly and my pork loins have been marinating overnight. I'm patting them both dry. What I'm going to do next is take the pork belly and I'm going to get that all seasoned up and ready to go, and get the pork loin sliced up and ready for the grinder. I sliced my pork loins into long strips. Now you notice the 2 pieces here. I cut the ends off of one of the pork loin, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with those in a few minutes. And here's my favorite kitchen toy, my Lem meat grinder. Now it's time to grind up my pork loin. When I make pork sausage, I don't use pork loin because it's way too lean. I'm not going to worry about that with this recipe because my very lean sausage that I'm making today will be stuffed inside a pork belly. So that's going to give me all the fat that I need. Here's a little trick I learned. Now, when you grind up meat, there's always a little meat left over inside the grinding mechanism. So if you run some bread through there, that gets that last little bit out of there. Now the bread's not going to change the flavor of the sausage. If anything, it's going to act as a binder for your sausage. And I usually only use maybe half a slice of bread, sometimes a whole slice, doesn't matter, just whatever you have. And that gets that last little bit of meat out of there, which I don't want to waste. After I ground up my pork loin, I carefully weighed it out. I need at least 1.5 pounds of ground pork for my sausage recipe. Today I'm using a spicy maple apple blend sausage seasoning from High Mountain Seasoning. I will post their website information in the description box below. According to their instructions, for 1.5 pounds of ground pork, you're supposed to use 1 tablespoon of the seasoning and 1/8 cup per pound of the dehydrated apples. I like a more intense flavor, so I'm going to double the amount of seasoning and apples I'm going to use for my sausage. I've added my sausage seasoning and the dehydrated apples. Now I'm going to mix everything together until it's well combined. Here I'm adding 1/4 cup of cold water plus 1/8 cup of cold water. I will continue to mix until the water is well incorporated into the sausage. After I make my sausage, I always cook a small sample to make sure my sausage is seasoned to my taste. Now, I smashed up 5 cloves of roasted garlic, and I will be spreading it on the meat side of my pork belly. Then I'm going to sprinkle it with some Aleppo pepper, kosher salt, and some of my dry rub. Here's my sausage, the 2 ends that I cut off the pork loin, and my seasoned pork belly ready to be stuffed. Time to start stuffing my pork belly. My original plan was to lay the sausage out like so and then roll it up lengthwise. Well, you'll see what happened with that plan in a second. As you can see here, my plan was not working out too well. My pork belly wasn't quite wide enough to roll up lengthwise. Now, I've stuffed pork loins before and had the stuffing just ooze out of it and end up in the bottom of the pan, and I didn't want that to happen. So I'm going to have to go to plan B. And here's my plan B. Roll it up the other way. Now, I'm not going to end up with as many slices as I wanted, but oh well, I'll make do. Now, you remember those 2 end pieces of the pork loin? That'll keep all of my sausage from oozing out on the edges here. I'm just going to season it up with some of that leftover garlic I had in the plate and some of the dry rub. It's going to fit in there just perfectly. I'm going to pour some of this garlic infused oil on top of my pork belly and massage it in real good. This will add one more layer of flavor. The oil will also help the spices adhere to the pork skin. It's time to tie up my pork belly, and don't judge. I'm just going to use some basic knots. Hey, it gets the job done. I haven't quite mastered that trussing thing yet, and I was not going to embarrass myself on camera trying to do so. So there. So I'm just going to use some basic knots, tie up my pork belly, and call it a day. My pork belly is all tied up, and as an extra measure, I put an extra piece of twine going right down the center because I wanted to make sure that my stoppers on each end stayed in place. Now it's ready to go into a 325-degree preheated oven. After I tied my stuffed pork belly, it went into a 325-degree oven. I cooked it for about 2 hours, low and slow, until it reached the internal temperature of about 165, almost 167, somewhere around there. Like I said earlier in the video, the next time I make this recipe, I will be putting it on the smoker and cooking it low and slow, and then finishing off on on the grill to crisp up the skin. Now, I was surprised. The skin was nice, but it wasn't as crispy and crunchy as I thought it would be. I guess I should have increased my oven temperature to crisp up that skin in the final phase of the cooking process. But anyway, all in all, it turned out really well. I will be making this again, and I will do it on the smoker. So now it's time to do my taste test. And here's my stuffed pork belly breakfast sandwich. It tastes like Easter ham that you sliced up real thick, put it between two pieces of bread, slapped an egg on it. It's like a breakfast sandwich on steroids. You got the sweetness of the meat because I branded it in that apple cider overnight with my dry rub spices, and from that dry rub I can pick up the paprika and the cumin and the garlic and the onion and all the other spices I put in my sausage. And then you can taste that sweet, savory maple spice sausage in the center. That sets it off. That truly sets it off. This recipe will not disappoint. I'm telling you. Once you start making this, you won't want to stop. Now, I know that my waistline and my blood pressure and my heart will not allow me to have this in my daily diet. But it sure is a treat to have this porky goodness on my plate today. Thank you, Lord, for this pork. Okay, thanks for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share my link with everyone you know in the universe. Be blessed and keep on cooking. Get back to the sandwich.